Well, hello YouTube. It's been probably a year and a half since I shot a video of the Diamond T project. At that time we were putting the front end back underneath it. We went with axle mounted rack and pinion. There's a video out there on it, and quarter elliptic front suspension. Well, now we're working on the rear finally. We have what I got laid out here is the lower link for 4-link suspension. What I used is like 41 to 48 Ford rear radius rods, and then cut them, sleeved them with a piece of pipe on the back, and then inserted Chevrolet truck spring bushings from like a 73 to 87 K series Chevy truck, 4-wheel drive, the front spring bushings. They're 1.5 inches and they're 2.5 inches long. And then what we've got here also is the quarter elliptic rear from Speedway. And what I've done is I've machined a spool to weld to the axle. It's out of 1 1/8, 41/40, and then bored a 3/4 inch hole in it and machined it to length for the, I'm going to weld it on the axle, and I'll give it enough clearance for the shackle to rotate, and it can attach directly to the axle. And then I cut these the brackets for the 4-link to mount to the axle, and machined them. They're out of 3/16, just hot rolled plate. So this is how I'm going to weld it together. The center tie piece is actually going to be the lower shock mount, and then I machined a piece of like 1.25 inch aluminum, just bored a hole in it and machined it to length. And I can put like a 20,000 spacer in there. So when I weld it, if it walks together, I want it to be longer than 3 inches by about 20 thousandths to make up for the powder coating, and be able to get the sleeve in there and then just let it compress it that last few thousandths to tighten it up on the bushing sleeve. And then also here is the bumper brackets to mount the bumper bolts to go in the rear of the frame. And so what I'm going to do is I'll drill the frame and drill a couple extra holes in the middle and plug weld them. I'll slide them in the frame, drill the holes, and then I'll have basically nuts, because I threaded these for 1/2 inch 20. And that's how I'm going to attach my brackets for my lines, my suspension, my bump stops to go over the axle. I haven't got them pieces made, but what I've done, I've got the rear frame extension kind of mocked up. I've used 2x3 120 wall structural tubing, and then once I got it all done, I started measuring and went out looking for a fuel tank. And this is actually a stock tanks unit for factory for fuel injection for a 53-54 Chevrolet passenger car. They make one for a truck, but most of them are center of the bed fill, which I do not want, because we're planning on doing a cross-country tour with this one, and the bed's going to be full of stuff, and I don't want to have to unload the truck in order to put gas in it. So it's going to have an outside fill here behind the left rear tire, and just so I can even put a tonneau cover on it if I want at that time, and keep the bed secure and not have to unload every time we put fuel in it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm getting ready to finish machining the insert plates for the frame, for the bump stops, the mounts for the brake lines, fuel lines, and so everything is going to be sleeved inside. It'll have the other ones will be a 1/4 inch plate. The ones for the bumper I made out of 3/8 by 2, a little heavier for the 1/2 inch, but everything else is going to be like 5/16 hole. So that's kind of where it's at. And the last time we saw it, the cowl was off, and it was pretty well stripped down. So I've got the radiator set in it. I've got the intercooler in. So what I've done is used basically the stock Diamond T side anchors for the radiator, which fit into the shroud, and then I cut it and modified it to where that's a radiator for 64 to 66 Mustang or Falcon, and the intercooler I think is for an MR2 Toyota. And then also it's got on the front, it's got the brackets upper are for a condenser and the lowers for a engine oil cooler. Since this is a turbocharged motor, it needs an engine oil cooler. And the one that was originally on the engine was water to oil, but to hook it up, and the last one I had, it leaked and got water in the oil. So I don't want to use it. I'm going to go to the air to oil. And it's the same thing I did with the 52 Ford truck that I drive every day. It originally had the same kind of cooler arrangement on it, and I went to air to oil cooler on it also, and it works just fine. So, and actually got some hoses, and them hoses are for like a 64 to 66 Mustang, and they pretty much line up and hook up with the water pump and the thermostat housing. So I mean, it's looking really good. And what I've got now, I've got all the pieces now for the exhaust, 3-inch 304 stainless, and then the turnout, the tip that's going to pierce the frame and come out kind of like old NASCAR style in front of the rear wheel, is going to be a 4-inch polished just piece of stainless pipe. And I kind of made a circle in the frame here with a magic marker, but it's going to move back almost to the bolt hole. It's going to be closer to the rear tire, so it's going to look a little better. After doing a little finagling on the suspension, I'm going to actually put the anchor for the spring on the rear side of the axle instead of on the top, so I can move that spring back almost 2 inches. So it's going to be able to move the exhaust back then that amount. So for now, I'm going to sign off. I might shoot a little video today. I'm going to fire up the mill and make the rest of these insert brackets, and kind of show. I bought a Procuner tapping head for it, and man, it is just one slick piece to use. I mean, I've made them 1/2-inch holes in that plate, the 1/2-20s, and man, I mean, it does them in seconds with no strain, no pain. I've tried doing it with a tap handle, and you kind of wear yourself out. So hopefully I'll shoot a little video on it when I get the lathes or the mill set up. And for now, I hope you like what you see. You know, it's looking good. Got the steering column in it where it's going to sit. And right now, as you can see where the toe board was, I'm going to trying to move the toe board at the bottom forward about 4 inches to get us a little leg room. And this is a third row seat out of a Chrysler minivan, I think it was like about a 97. I got out of Pick and Pull. S10 T5, made it to the 2.3 out of a Thunderbird Turbo Coupe, and just used a stick off of it. It was like off of a 60 Ford 1-ton that I found in the boneyard, and grafted it to the top of the sticks of the T5. So everything's looking good. Then I've also ordered emergency brake cables. The rear end's a 2000 Explorer, so I ordered 2 Wright 2000 Explorer brake cables, and they'll come up underneath the cab, so it's just going to be a matter of linkage to hook it up. I'm using a floor-mounted handbrake. It's for like a 39 to 47 Dodge or the old style Power Wagon. That I found a brand new old stock one. It was a military one on eBay, so I bought it. So until the next time, we're going to sign off. And as you notice, the sign in the door, the Artistic Ironworks, 29 East Montgomery, Glen 4493. What the plan is, I'm going to take a rendering of that before we sandblast the truck. And when the truck is finished, I'm thinking about putting that back on the doors. So it'll have sort of proclaim its history. It was a work truck at one time. It was a 1.5 ton Diamond T. It's a model 306. That's why the frame's a little heavy, but it's going to work. So until the next time, we're signing off. Bye.